What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be building this Angular to-do app from scratch. So let's get started. Before we start, if you are new to my channel, please subscribe and don't forget to hit the notification bell icon. So let's create a new Angular app using the Angular CLI. If you don't have installed Angular CLI, just go to this Angular CLI website, cli.angular.io, and simply follow this first command. That's it. You can check the CLI version by running this command in your terminal or command prompt. ngversion. At the time I am recording this video, the Angular CLI version is 9.1.0. If your version is lower than this, or maybe your installed version is outdated, you can upgrade the version by simply reinstalling the Angular CLI. Just simply run this command. If you are on a Mac, before you type this command, add sudo beginning of this command. So the modified command will be look like this: sudo npm install -g @angular/cli. Otherwise, it will show a security permission error. This is only for Mac users. If you are on a Windows, no need to modify anything. Just simply run this command on your command prompt. That's it. Alright, let's create a project folder. So for this tutorial purpose, I am going to create my project folder inside my desktop. You can create your project folder wherever you want, and it's up to you. If you want, you can follow me. So right click on your desktop, new folder, and rename it to UT projects. Now open the terminal or the command prompt, navigate to the project folder, cd desktop, cd UT projects, and run this command to create a new Angular app, ngnew, and the app name. In our case, we are creating a to-do app. So the app name is to-do. Hit enter. Yes, of course, we are using the Angular router. So give yes to this. Select CSS as our styling method and hit enter. Alright, our Angular to-do app is cooking. This may take several minutes depending on your PC and internet speed. So while this is installed, I give you an idea of what we are going to build in this tutorial. As I mentioned before, this is a to-do app where we can manage our simple to-dos. So in this app, we have to-do categories. We can create, delete, update categories, and we can save new to-dos under each category. So inside these to-dos, we can mark uncompleted to-dos as completed, completed to-do as uncompleted, and also we can edit, delete, and save new to-dos. Alright, so we are using Firebase Firestore database as our backend database. I think most of you already know about this Firebase, right? Firebase is a backend service for mobile and web apps. So it has so many inbuilt features like real-time databases, cloud functions, analytic tools, testing tools, push notifications, authentication, and hosting. Likewise, so many features are there. So this Firebase has free trial, which is very helpful for startups. Once your app grows, you can pay. Cool, right? And also Firebase is developed and maintained by Google. Okay, so I have divided this tutorial into 3 sections. In the first section, We will be designing the entire To-Do app using the Bootstrap and with some custom CSS. In the second section, we will be writing some codes to handle our backend process. We will connect the app to the Firestore. As I mentioned before, Firestore is a backend database service that is one of the services offered by the Firebase, and it is free. Then we will do some form validations. Also, we are going to use some of third-party NPM plugins to show loading states and pop-up notifications. So I think that's it for the second section. In the third section, we will be building the To-Do app to the production, and also I will show you how to deploy the app to the Firebase host. Alright, our Angular To-Do app is cooked and ready to serve. Open this app inside your favorite code editor. I am using VS Code, so I am opening this project inside the VS Code. Beautiful. Now let's run this newly created Angular app. To do that, open the integrated terminal inside VS Code. Go to View and Terminal, or you can use this keyboard shortcut. Inside the terminal, run ngserve. Alright, our app compiled without any problem. So now open your browser and go to this URL. http://localhost again :4200. And we can see this default Angular boilerplate view. So now let's dive into our first section. So let's start design the app. To design, we're gonna be use Bootstrap as our main CSS framework. Most of you already know about Bootstrap, right? If you don't know about Bootstrap, so you can simply go to the getbootstrap.com and follow this documentation. It is easy. It's just a simple CSS framework with a bunch of CSS classes. Let's add the Bootstrap to our Angular app using the npm. Create a new terminal by clicking this plus icon. Then run npm I. This I stand for install. Then type Bootstrap and press enter. Once installation completed, import Bootstrap file to our project. Then only we can work with Bootstrap. Open this angular.json file. Inside, go to this CSS section and here import the Bootstrap CSS file by adding this path. node_modules/bootstrap/css/bootstrap.min.css. So I use the minified version of Bootstrap CSS. This will speed up a little bit our app. Save this file, and to load these changes, we have to restart the app. Go to the terminal that our project is running. We can switch between terminals with this dropdown. Ctrl+C to stop the app, and again run this command ngserve to restart the app. Alright, for now our project basic settings are done. Let's get started to the design process by creating the Angular components. So in this To-Do app, the first page will be the category page. You can see in this wireframe, we have a navbar and the footer, a new category form, and down below I am planning to show saved category list in CRUD style with some random color top borders. So if I click one of this category card, this will open the To-Dos page, and this will show the list of To-Dos saved under this category. And also here we can see the navbar component and as well as the footer component. So our To-Do app components are the main app component, navbar component, and the footer component. These two components will be shown inside these two pages, and the category component and to-do component. Alright, let's create the components using the Angular CLI. Type this command inside the terminal. Switch back to this terminal and run this command. G stands for generate, C stands for components, and give the component path and component name. So I'm gonna put header and footer components inside the layouts folder. So type layouts / and the component name Navbar and press enter. The Navbar component is ready. Go to the file structure and open the app folder. Inside we can see this layouts folder. Open this and inside that we can see our newly created Navbar component. Alright, run the same command to create the footer component. This time component name will be footer. Alright, footer and Navbar components are ready. We have two more components to generate. This category component and the to-do component. Again run this command ngC. This time I am not going to put these components inside any subfolders. This will be generated inside the app folder. So I type only the component name here, category, and press enter. Alright, category component generated. Again run the same command. This time component name will be to-do. Alright, we have generated all of the components. So now let's get busy with some coding. So now open this app.component.html file and clean this up. Remove this all and place the Navbar and footer component here. Save the file and get back to the browser. In here we can see Navbar works and this footer works. Actually these are coming from our components. Open this navbar.component.html file. This is what's showing inside the web browser. So which means everything is working perfectly. Some of you new to Angular may be wondering, how do I add these tags? app-navbar and this app-footer. This is simple. You can see the HTML markup tag for each component by opening the relevant component.ts file. So in our case, open the navbar.component.ts file. In here we can see the selector app-navbar. If you want to show this component in your view, we have to use this selector. Open this footer.component.ts file. In here you can see this selector app-footer. So this is how I added these tags to the app.component.html file. Hope you guys got the idea, right? So next, let's add routes to show these category and to-do components. Open this app-routing.module.ts file. Inside this array, let's add our first router. So first add a curly bracket here. Inside these curly brackets, the first value will be the path. I'm gonna add the empty path here. An empty path will represent the default URL of the app. In our case, our Angular to-do app default path URL is localhost:4200. If we load this URL inside the browser, Angular shows the view of this app.component.html file. That's why we are seeing this navbar and footer components here. So now I want to show the category component on my default path. To do that, get back to the app-routing.module.ts file. As I mentioned before, this empty path represents our app default URL. In order to show the category component on default path URL, we have to pass another value here. This value will be the component. So type component colon and category component. While you type this, you can see this autocomplete suggestion. Select that. We can see here this will automatically import the path to that category component. If you don't get this autocomplete and this auto import path, no worries, just simply type this path. Now save this file and go back to the browser. This is not working. If it's work, this will show this category works text inside the browser. Oh, I did a mistake here. I forgot to add the router outlet. So add the router outlet between this navbar and footer components. Save this file and back to the browser. Beautiful. Now we can see this category works text here, which means we have successfully added the category component to the default URL. Next, let's add the to-do router. Again, get back to the app-router.module.ts file and copy and paste this line, and don't forget to add the comma here. Change this path value to to-do and change this component to to-do component. And again select the autocomplete, which will automatically import the path to this to-do component. Save and get back to the browser. And end of this default URL, add our to-do route. Our to-do route is /todo and press enter. So now we can see this to-do works. So routers are working perfectly. Alright, until now everything is working fine. Now let's add some styling to these components. Well, we start with the navbar component. So close this all and open the navbar.component.html file. Create a header tags. Between these header tags, create a div HTML tag with container bootstrap class. I am using emit here, so div.container. This div is the HTML div tag and this dot represents the class, and this will be the class name, container. And press the tab key on your keyboard. Beautiful. Then create another div with these classes, div.row and again dot justify dash content dash md dash center. Press the tab key. Okay, now we can see this newly created div with these two classes. Like this, we can create a div with multiple classes. Between this row, another div dot call dash md dash auto. Inside this call, add an h5 tag, and inside this h5 type Todo App. This h5 tag has two classes, text dash primary and brand. This text primary is Bootstrap class and this brand is a custom CSS class. Save this and get back to the browser. Here we can see our simple navbar with basic Bootstrap styling. Let's add some custom CSS to this navbar. Open this navbar.component.css file. Now we are going to add some styling to header tag. Type header and add the scope. Inside this, set height to 100 pixels. Padding top to 30 pixels. Padding bottom to 20 pixels. Add margin bottom 50 pixels. Let's add some shadow to this navbar. We can generate the drop shadow CSS codes using the help of an online tool. Open your browser and go to this URL cssmatic.com/box-shadow. With this tool, we can generate the drop shadow CSS code according to our preferences. On the left side, we can see the editor, and on the right side, we can see the preview of the shadow. Set horizontal length to 0, vertical length to 0, set blur radius to around 33 pixels. If you noticed, when we adjust these settings, we can get the real-time view of the shadow in here. So we can get a clear picture of what we are doing here. Set spread radius to -10 pixels. Add shadow color to #4772FE. This background color and box color, keep it as default. Don't change anything. Set the opacity to 0.3. And now we can see this auto-generated CSS code for the drop shadow according to our settings. It's cool, right? Now copy this code and paste inside header CSS. Save and get back to the browser. So here we can see the shadow. Now let's add some styling to this app name. So back to the VS Code. I already set a custom CSS class for this app name, that is brand. Inside the navbar CSS, .brand and the scope. Inside the scope, set background color #F3F6FF and padding. Top and bottom will be 10 pixels and left and right will be 50 pixels. Border radius to 50 pixels and make the cursor to pointer. Okay, navbar looks great. Let's move on to the next component, footer component. Footer also the same as this navbar. There is not much difference. Open footer.component.html file and go to this navbar component.html file and copy this all and paste it inside this footer component.html file. And change these header tags to the footer tags. And add the p tag below this h5 tag and add this copyright text. Type copyright and the copyright symbol, type 0169 while pressing the Alt key, then release it. Then type Todo App and also change this h5 to h6 tag. And add this text -center class to this div. Copy this header tag CSS Open footer.component.css file and paste it here. Change this header to footer. Save this and back to the browser. Beautiful. Footer looking great. Open app.component.html. Wrap this router outlet with container class. Create a div with a container class. Div.container. Press tab. Put this router outlet inside this container. And also wrap this container inside another div. Create a div tag and put this container div inside this div. Add a custom CSS class to this div app. Open app.component.css file. Let's add the CSS style to this app class. .app. Inside this, min height, the value will be 100 VH. Save this and back to the browser. If you noticed, we can see a little margin below the footer. To remove that, go to the footer CSS and remove this margin bottom value. Save and back to the browser. Beautiful. Alright, everything looks perfect. Now let's design the category component. Inside this category HTML file, create a div with these 3 Bootstrap classes. Div.row, again dot, justify dash content dash center dot mb dash 3. Press enter. Inside this div, add another column div with text dash center class. Div.col dash md dash 4 dot text dash center. Inside this, create an h1 tag and type to do categories inside this h1 tag. All capital letters. Down below, just add the p tag with class text dash info. Between this p tag, add the dummy text lorem and select this autocomplete. Enter. Save and back to the browser. This dummy text does not look perfect. Remove bit text from this p tag. Done. Save it. Back to the browser. Now looks perfect. Okay, let's code the new category form area. Create a div with Bootstrap class row. Inside this div, create another div with Bootstrap class col-md-12. Inside this col div, create a form with Bootstrap class form-inline. Inside the form, create a div with class col-md-10 and form-group. Inside this form group, add an input tag. The type will be text and the placeholder add new categories here. Input name will be category name and this N will be capital. And add this Bootstrap class to this input field form-control-plain text. Next, we need to have here a submit button. So create a button tag and type will be submit and add this class button btn-primary col-md-2, and also this custom CSS class btn-todo and btn-blog. Between these button tags, type add. Save this file and back to the browser, and it looks like this with the default Bootstrap styling. Let's add some CSS to this form. To style this input field, open category.component.css file, input, square brackets, type the equal sign, and our input type is text. Then curly brackets, add the background color to ash fe. Height will be 60 pixels. Padding left will be 20 pixels. Then add a shadow. As I mentioned before, you can use the online tool to generate the drop shadow. So this time the drop shadow will be same as the Navbar. So copy previous Navbar shadow and paste it here. Save this and back to the browser. Perfect. We are now done with the text field styling. Let's add some style to this button. Inside the category CSS file, our custom button CSS class btn-todo. Inside this, height will be 60 pixels. Background color is ash e9EEFF and the color ash 4772FE. Set border to none and also add the same shadow to this button too. Save, back to the browser. Looks perfect as we planned. If you noticed, we have used the same shadow in several places. Inside this Navbar CSS, again inside this footer CSS, and again 2 times in this category CSS. Repeating the same code again and again, this is actually not a good practice. So what we can do here is, we can create a global CSS class for this shadow CSS, and we can import that class whenever we need a drop shadow. In Angular, every component has its own CSS file. You can see in this tree, Navbar has its own Navbar CSS file. The footer has its own CSS file. Likewise, every component has its own CSS file. If we add some CSS in some of these component CSS files, this CSS style will only apply to that relevant component only. For example, if we add some CSS on the Navbar component CSS file, this will only apply to that Navbar component. This will not apply to the footer component or any other component. So if we want to create a global CSS style in Angular, we can use this styles.css file. Inside this styles.css file, create a class for the global drop shadow. .drop-shadow and the scope. Place this drop shadow code inside this global style and save the file. Now remove all the other drop shadow codes inside Navbar component CSS file. Remove it. Inside footer component CSS file. Remove it. And category component CSS file. Remove these two shadow codes. Save everything and back to the browser. Now we cannot see the drop shadows. Now let's import this global drop shadow class to components. Inside the navbar, we want to show a shadow on the navbar. So add class inside this header tag, class drop dash shadow. Save the file. Beautiful. Now we can see this shadow as previous. Do the same to other components as well. Add drop dash shadow class to footer tag, and inside the category component, for now we have to add this drop shadow in two places. One for the input tag and another one for the button. Save all files and back to the browser. Everything looks like previous. It's cool, right? And also always remember to learn smart, not hard. Let's design the category cards. Add these HTML codes inside the category.component.html file. Create a div with a class, row and categories-list. This row class will be a Bootstrap class, and this category-list is a custom CSS class. Inside this, another div with class call-md-3. Inside this call, another div with the class card. And again inside this card, another div with class card-body. So inside this card-body, div with class clearFix Bootstrap class to position the category label and the edit delete button left and right in one line. Okay, inside this clearFix, a div with these classes, float left Bootstrap class for position this left side inside the card body, and another div with these classes, badge-primary. The text will be category, all capital letters. So again another div inside this clearFix. The class will be float-right and create a custom class cat-tools for custom CSS. This floating-right Bootstrap class will position this on the right side of the card body. Now we have to add edit icon and delete icon. For that, we are going to use Fontawesome Icon library. To get the library, open this site fontawesome.com and click this start for free and select this npm. To install Fontawesome via npm, we can use this command. Copy this command by clicking this icon and paste it inside the internal command prompt. Enter. This will install Fontawesome Icon library. This may take several minutes depending on your internet speed. Now add the Fontawesome import to our project. To do that, open angular.json file and add this line under this style. node underscore modules slash at Fontawesome slash Fontawesome dash free slash css slash all.css. In order to work this import, we have to restart this ngServe. Ctrl C to stop currently running server and again run ngServe. Okay, let's continue our coding. Back to the category.component.html file. Inside this CatTools div, add a small tag. I want to be these icons smaller, so I added this small tag. And I tag with fa-pencil-alt and text-success classes. This fa and fa-pencil-alt class imported from Fontawesome Icon library, and this text-success from the Bootstrap framework. Add another small tag and I tag for delete icon. Classes will be fas, fa-trash and text-danger. As I mentioned before, these two classes from Fontawesome and this is from Bootstrap. Alright, next inside this card body div, add a div with a custom CSS class todo-content. Add an h3 tag inside this div to show to-do category name. For now, let's make it static. Don't worry, in the later sections, we will be making this static layout to dynamic via loading data from Firestore database. So add a simple category name inside this h3 tag. I added category. Next, add a small tag with the class text-secondary and add some dummy text inside this small tag. Type lorem and press enter. Next, add a to-dos count area to show total to-do counts saved under this category. Span with Bootstrap classes badge-danger. Inside this span, type 3-todos. Alright, we are done with the category cards. Save it and back to the browser. It will be looks like this without custom styling. Let's add some CSS and make this looks awesome. Open category.component.css file. .card curly brackets. Set the border to none. Border dash left to 5 pixels. Solid, and the color will be ash and 4 zeros. At the end, this color will be dynamic. For now, keep it this way. Margin dash top 50 pixels. Okay, save it and let's see how it looks like. Looks okay, but we have to add the drop shadow to this card. So we already created a global CSS class for the drop shadow. So no need to write any CSS codes for this shadowing again. Back to the category component HTML file and add this drop-shadow class to this card div. Save this file and back to the browser. Beautiful. Actually this dummy text not looks good. So remove bit text from it. Save and back to the browser. Cool. Okay, let's design these badges. Types of badges I am using with this project is badge primary and badge danger. Okay, badge primary. Background color will be ash E9EEFF and color will be ash 4772FE. Badge dash danger. Background color ash FEF0F0 and the color will be ash F04141. Save and back to the browser. Looking awesome. Let's add style for updates and delete buttons. For this I have given a custom CSS class cat-tools. Back to the CSS file .cat-tools, display none. It will be visible when it hover the card. .cat-tools I, the style for the I tag, margin 0 pixels for top and bottom, 5 pixels for left and right, and cursor pointer. Categories dash list card :hover, curly brackets, cursor pointer, background dash color ash F8F8F8. Next, category dash list card :hover cat dash tools. Inside the scope, display inline. Save it and back to the browser, and also add the top margin to this badge. Inside this category CSS, badge dash danger class, add margin dash top to 50 pixels. And also add the left top border radius to this card. Inside this card CSS class, add this border dash top dash left dash radius 30 pixels. Save and back to the browser. Everything looks perfect. Alright, let's move on to the next and the final component, to-do component. In the to-do component also we have this heading, text and this form area like this category component. So copy this heading area and this form area, paste it inside the to-do component HTML file, and change this to-do category to to-dos, all capital letters. And inside this input field, change this placeholder. And input name will be to-do text and this T will be capital. Save this and back to the browser and navigate to the to-do router /to-do. We can see as previous the basic Bootstrap style for this form. Our custom form style is not working. Why is that? Because this form style is inside this category component CSS file. This CSS only works with this category component only. So in order to work this in to-do component, we have to put this CSS inside the to-do component CSS as well. Copy this input and button CSS from category component CSS and paste it here inside the to-do component CSS file. Save this and back to the browser. Perfect. All good. Wait, before we move on, if you noticed again, we're repeating the same CSS code inside this two components. This is not good, right? So like drop shadow, we can make these CSS classes global. Copy this input and button CSS and paste it inside this styles.css file. And remove these CSS codes from category component CSS and to do component CSS. Save this and back to the browser. If you noticed here, textfield CSS is applied, but this button style is not applied. To fix this, back to the styles.css and add this important to all these styles inside this button dash to do. Save this and back to the browser. Everything working perfect. Next, let's create the to-do cards. Open todo.component.html file and add these tags. Create a div with class, row and to-do-list custom CSS class. Inside this div, create another div with these classes .col-md-6 .justify-content-center. Inside this div, create another div with class card, and inside this card, div with class card body. Inside card body, create a clearfix div, and inside this div, create another div .float-left .text-secondary. Inside this, create a I tag with FA-circle text-danger. This FAR and FA-circles class coming from Fontawesome Icon library, and this text-danger coming from Bootstrap. After this float-left div, create a div with float-right class. Inside this, I tag with the classes FAR, FA-check-circle text-success. And again another I tag with these classes FAR, FA-times-circle and text-danger. After this, create a div with todo-tools custom CSS class. Inside this div, I tag with these classes FAS, FA-pencil-alt text-warning. And again another I tag with these classes FAS, FA-trash text-danger, and put these I tags inside small tags. Save this and back to the browser. Here we can see the to-do card with the simple Bootstrap styling. But we have a small problem here. This to-do card must be in center of the page. So let's check the code. Oh, I did a mistake here. This justify-content-center class must be with this row class. Cut it from here and paste it inside this row div. And also remove this S. This must be to-do list. Save it. Now we can see this to-do card is on the right place. Let's add styling to this to-do cards. Open todo.component.css file. Inside this, let's add a margin top to this to-do list. .todo-list margin dash top 50 pixels. Next, .todo-list .card and the scope. Inside this, border will be none. Set margin dash top to 5 pixels and set background dash color to F8 F8 F8. Next, to-do dash tools. Make this display none. This to-do tools will show when the to-do cards hover. And again, .to-do dash tools and I. This is for the I tag, which is these to edit and delete icons. Inside this, margin top and bottom will be 0 pixels, left and right will be 5 pixels, and make the cursor pointer. Save and back to the browser. Beautiful. Let's add the overstyle for these to-do cards. Back to the to-do component CSS file. .todo-list space .card :hover and the scope. Inside this, cursor pointer make width 600 pixels, make height 80 pixels, margin dash left minus 30 pixels, border dash top dash left dash radius 30 pixels and border dash bottom dash right dash radius 30 pixels. Save and back to the browser. Hover style is working perfectly. Let's add a margin to this icon, and also if you noticed, we cannot see the edit and delete icons. To fix that, back to the to-do component CSS file and add this. .todo-list .card :hover and again .todo-tools. Inside this, set display to inline and also add the margin for the I tag, I and the scope. Inside this, margin dash right to 20 pixels. Save this and back to the browser. Beautiful. So our to-do component style also the done. Now let's add a background image. Open the link in the description below. Download this image. And put it inside UT projects, to do src and assets folder. And again back to the VS Code and add these styles inside the styles.css file. Background dash image URL and brackets. Add the path to the background image inside these brackets. Single quotes inside ./assets/background.png. Then make background dash position to center, background dash repeat to no repeat, and also background dash size to cover. Save this and back to the browser. Beautiful. Alright, now we are done with our first section. Next, let's move on to the second section. First thing first, we have to create a Firebase account. Go to the firebase.google.com and click this Get Started button and log into your Gmail account. If you don't have one, you can create a new account with this. I already have an account, so I am logging into that Gmail account. So now we can see this welcome page. To create a new Firebase project, click this button. Add a project name here. You can add whatever the name you want. I just add to do because our app is a to-do app. Down below we can see this auto-generated project ID. If you want, you can edit this project ID by clicking this pencil icon. I am okay with the project, so I am leaving that as it is. Click continue. In the next page, we can see this analytics page. We can enable, disable Google Analytics. By default it's enabled, so I am keeping this enabled. Click continue and tick these two agreements, then click create project. Alright, Firebase project is successfully created. Now click continue. Now we can see our project dashboard. On the right side, we can see lots of options, but in this tutorial, we only use this database and hosting sections only. Go to this database and click this create database button. In this tutorial, we are not going to do any authentication, so select this start in test mode. If you want to learn more about authentication and these security rules, let me know in the comment section below and click next. Here we can select the cloud Firestore location. I am keeping the default location and click done. This may take 20 to 60 seconds. Okay, our cloud Firestore database is successfully created. Now we have to connect our Angular to-do app to this Firebase. To do that, go to this project overview tab and click this web icon. Here give a nickname to the app, to-do app. Keep this untick. We'll set up the Firebase hosting on our next section. Click this register app and copy this config data. Back to the VS Code and open this environment.ts file, which inside this environment folder. After this, create an environment variable, Firebase config. This C will be capital. And inside this, paste copied Firebase config data and save this. Okay, we have created the Firebase environment variable. Now we have to connect our Angular app to Firebase. To do that, we are going to use an npm package called Angular Fire. search Angular Fire on Google and go to this GitHub page. Here you can find all the information about the Angular Fire. Go to this quick start guide, copy this command and back to the VS Code. Paste copied command inside the internal terminal and press enter. So after installing the Angular Fire, install another npm package, npm I Firebase. Press enter. Okay, next let's set up the Angular Fire. Open this app.modules.ts file and import Angular Fire module. Type import curly brackets inside this Angular Fire module. Follow these capital simple letters carefully. Then from double quotes or single quotes, inside this type @Angular/Fire and also import the environment Firebase config variable. So again import curly brackets inside this environment from single quotes src/environments/environment. Then go to this imports. Inside this add this Angular Fire module.initialize app inside the brackets environment.firebase config. This is our Firebase config variable. We connected to Firebase, so we are using Firestore. In order to use Firestore with the Angular app, we have to import Firestore module as well. Go to the import section and add this import statement. Import inside curly brackets Angular Firestore module from single quotes @Angular/Fire/Firestore. And back to these imports and add this module, Angular Firestore module. After these Firebase imports, just restart the app. Go to the terminal, Ctrl C to stop the running server and again run ngserve to run the app. Alright, we have completed the Firebase and Firestore setup. Next, let me give you a quick intro about the Firestore database. So Firestore is a cloud NoSQL document based database. This is different than the traditional table based database like SQL database. So in SQL database, data saved in a table, but Firestore database saved data in a document. So what is a document? It is a group of key value pairs. For example, details of a user A, the name is user A, gender male and age 30. You can see here this is the key and this is the value. And this is a group of key value pair. This group of key value pairs we can call this document. Group of these documents we called collection. In our example, we have a group of user details documents. So this will be users collection. Hope you guys got the idea, right? In a document, we can also have only one key value pair. There is no limitation for this. In another document, we can have different types of key value pairs. In Firestore, we can store string values, number values, boolean values, map coordinates, arrays, timestamps, geopoint values, references, and also we can store null values. How do we add relations in Cloud Firestore? Think if a user has many hobbies. How do we add multiple hobbies in a document? In the SQL database, we have users in a separate database and we can store hobbies in another separate table. By importing the user's ID, we can connect each other tables. In NoSQL databases, also we can do the same. We have a users collection. Each document has its own unique IDs. And also we can add the hobbies collection and create a document for hobby, and we can import the user ID to connect each collection. But we can do this in a better way in Firestore. We can create a collection inside documents. If we take the same example, take this user A as two hobbies. One is reading books and another one is watching movies. We can store this data by creating a hobbies collection inside this user collection. This hobbies collection has two hobbies. One is reading books and another one is watching movies. If the user has three hobbies, we can save that again another hobbies collection for this user document. And inside this hobbies collection, three hobbies documents. One is traveling, one is sleeping, and one is playing games. If the user C doesn't have any hobbies, no problem. We can leave this empty. So hope you guys got the idea. This is just a simple example. If you guys want to learn more deeply about this Firestore, let me know in the comment section below. Now let's plan our to-do Firestore database. In our to-do app, we have to-do categories. Each category has its own list of to-dos. We need a categories collection. This collection will have a list of category documents. So documents keys will be category, color dash code, and to-do count. This category is the category name. So for example, category gym. This color code is when we save a new category, I am planning to give a random color for this category. So when we load this list of categories on our frontend, we can show a random border colors to that category card using this color code. If you don't get it, just leave it. You will know when we get to that part. And the to-do count, by default this will save 0. When we save a new to-do under this category, this count will increase. So these category documents has its own to-dos. So like previous hobbies example, we will store these to-dos by creating a collection inside these documents. So that collection name will be to-dos, and that collection will have to-do documents. So this document keys will be to-do and is completed. So this to do value will be simple to do, like do 10 push-ups, and this is completed value will be a boolean value, which means true or false. If this value is true, this means we completed this to do. If this value is false, which means we are not done with this to do. Simple, right? This is it for the database planning. Let me show you this action by adding a data to Firestore database using the Firebase dashboard. Go to the Firebase dashboard and go to this database tab and click this start collection. So a collection name will be categories and select next. Now this will ask about this document keys and values. So in our case we have category and type will be string and value will be like our example gym. And again click this add field and our next field is color code. This C is capital and data type is string and value will be add a random color, just add ash DE2828. And again we have another field. The field name is to do count and again this C is capital. This type will be number and value will be 0. And now click this save. Perfect, we successfully saved our first document inside the Firestore. So here we can see the document. In Firestore, each document represents with its own unique ID. This column will show the list of documents. This ID will generate automatically, but if we need a custom ID, we can generate that by ourselves. Inside this column, we can see our document fields and values. Next we have to-dos. As we planned previously, we are going to add that to-dos collection under this document. So this time click this start collection, not this one. This is in the main collection tree and this is the sub collection tree for this document. Click this start collection and again give a collection name. This time this will be to-dos. And again add fields for this to-do document. To-do, the type is string and value is do 10 push-ups. Next is completed. Select boolean as the type and value will be false. So now we can see this to-dos collection and its document and its values like previous categories collection. If you noticed, this to-dos collection is inside this categories collection. Not only that, also this to-dos collection inside this document as well. Okay, now let's save a category using our Angular app. There is two forms type in Angular, reactive forms and template driven forms. I am going to use template driven forms for this tutorial. Alright, before we start, we have to import forms module. Go to app.modules.ts file and add this import. Import curly brackets, inside the curly brackets, forms module. This F and M must be capital. Then from single quotes, inside this single quotes, at Angular/forms. and add this import under this imports forms module. Save this file and now open category.component.html file and remove this action inside this form and add this ngIf =, and ngForm inside quotes. This form f must be capital and also this f can be any name. Then add the brackets. Inside the brackets ngSubmit. This s must be capital, keep it mind. =, and quotes. Inside this we are going to tell what to do when this form submitted. So we are calling to a function. So add the function name here on submit. Don't get confused. This function is not coming from Angular. We have to create this function manually, right? And also this function name can be anything. But remember to give a relevant name. So this function is for form submission. That's why I gave this name on submit, which makes more sense, right? Now open this categories.component.ts file and create the function on submit and the parentheses, then function scope. Inside this add a console log to check whether this function is working or not. Console.log. Inside this just log working. Save this and back to the browser and open the console. To do that, right click and inspect element and select this console. Then click this form add button. Here inside this browser console, we can see this log working. So on submit function is working. Let me quickly explain what is happening here. When we click the submit button, this will call this ngSubmit. So in our case, our ngSubmit function is this onSubmit function. This will look inside this categories.component.ts file. There are any functions declared named onSubmit. If any, this will run the function. If not, this will show an error. For now, remove this function and save. Back to the browser and click this button again. Here we can see this error saying that onSubmit is not a function. So, and also here inside this internal terminal also, we can see the same error. Also we can see the error line number and the error place. This is cool, right? Again, keep this as previous and save. It's working now. We can see this working log inside this console. Alright, hope you guys got the idea. So now we have to pass the form input value to this onSubmit function. To do that, pass this ngForm parameter to onSubmit function. For this I added f, so pass f here. If ngForm variable is any other word like or letter like b, then pass here b. This name and this parameter must match each other. After that, we have to bind this input field to this form. So add ngModel inside this input. This m must be capital. Save this and open the categories component ts file. We are passing a parameter from form to this onSubmit function. So now we have to catch that. So inside this parenthesis, create a variable to catch that parameter. I am giving f as variable and the type will be ngForm and select the autocomplete. This will import the path to this ng form. Now console log this f, save this and back to the browser. Type a category here, something that you want. I'm just adding a category and press this button. Now we can see lots of output inside our browser console. For now, we only use this value object. Inside this, we can see the input field name and the value. To get this value, back to the TS file and after this f, add dot value. Save and back to the browser. Again type something inside here and click this button. Now we are getting only the form values instead of the previous big object. So now let's save this value inside the Firestore database. To do that, we have to generate a service file. Go to the terminal and run ngGS. This G stands for generate and this S stands for service. And give the path and the service file name. So I am saving all the service files inside a service folder. So service / and service name will be category and press enter. Alright, our service file generated. Open this category.service.ts file and we have to inject Angular Firestore to this constructor. Import curly brackets inside this Angular Firestore and again follow these capital simple letters carefully. Then from single quotes inside @Angular /fire/Firestore. Then inside this constructor inject this Angular Firestore. So private AFS : this can be any name and Angular Firestore. The starting A and this F must be capital. So now create a function for saving category. After this constructor, create a function called save category, parentheses and the function scope. To save, we have to pass the form data to this function. So add a parameter called data. Okay, now inside this, call this injected Angular Firestore, this .afs then collection brackets. Inside this brackets, pass the collection name as a string. So quotes and collection name we are trying to save with this function is a category. So our collection name is categories. If you can remember, we created this collection inside our Firestore manually. So this is the collection name. Then we are saving data. So add brackets. Inside these brackets, pass this parameter value. Then add the callback function. Then brackets inside brackets ref and arrow function. Inside this, log the success message and don't forget to put the semicolon end of this line. So now we have to call this service function when we click this add button. We already add this onSubmit function. So from this function we can call that service function. To do that, we have to inject the category service file to this category component constructor. At this import statement, import curly brackets. Inside category service, the C and S must be capital. From single quotes, double dot slash services slash category dot service and inject this category service inside the constructor. Private category service and category service. Look at this naming convention. The variable's first letter is simple and imported service module's first letter is capital. This variable can be any name that you want, but this module must same as this import. Next, let's call the save category function from this onSubmit function. Type this.categoryService. Now we can see this save category function on auto import. Select it and parentheses. This save category requires the data parameter. So pass this f.value to this parameter. Save this and back to the browser and type a category name like something grocery and click this add button. Inside the browser console, we can see this success message, which means category data saved successfully in the Firestore. To double confirm, go to the Firebase dashboard and go to the database. Beautiful. We can see our newly created category. If you noticed here, in this newly created category document is not according to our database plan. We can see only the category value. We cannot see color code and the to-do count values. Why is that? Because we only passed this category form value to this save function. So once again log this data here and comment this line. Save and back to the browser. Type something inside this category input and click this add button. Now inside the browser console, we can see only this category name value. So that's why we are getting only the category value inside our Firebase document. So now let's create an object including the color code and the to-do count values. Inside this onSubmit function, let to-do category, this C must be capital, and assign and object. Category and the value, pass this form value as category. Then color code. For now add this color code #C8C8C8. Later we will save some random color using an array. Next, add this to-do count. The default value is 0. Now pass this to-do category object instead of this form value. Save this and back to the browser and now save a new category. This time save something kitchen and click this add button. And we got the success message inside our console, which means the newly created category saved inside the Firestore successfully. Go to the Firestore tab. This is our newly created to-do category. So this time we got this color code and to-do count. Alright, get back to the VS Code and create an array for color codes. Inside this class scope, create a variable color and this color variables type will be array, and give the array type any. And assign these colors array. I just copy and paste this. This array has 15 color hex codes. And this is optional. You don't need to copy the exact these color codes. You can create your own color codes array. I took these colors from a website called colorhunt.co. Just click one of this Xcode. This will copy that color Xcode to clipboard. And you can paste that color inside the array. Likewise, you can copy as many as colors as you wish. If you want to copy the same color codes as mine, so pause the video and copy it. So next what I am going to do is taking a random color from this color array and passing it to this color code. First let's generate a random number and then we can get the color code array value for that random number. Inside onSubmit function, create a variable let random number. Then assign. In JavaScript, we can create random numbers using this function math. This M must be capital. Then dot random and brackets. This will return any random number, so there is no limit. We don't need any random number. We just need a random number that less than our color array's length. In our array, we only have 15 values. So we only need a random value between 0 to 15, right? If we get any number greater than 15, we will get an error, because there is no value for that number in our array. So add this after the math.random function star and 15. This is the length of our array. Comment these codes and log this variable random number. Save this and back to the browser and click this add button. Now we can see this number inside our browser console. Click again. Now again we got this number. If you noticed, we are having another problem because we are getting decimal values. So we don't need decimal values. To stop that, put this math.random inside math.flow. This math.flow only return integer values. Save this and back to the browser and click this add button. Cool, right? Now we are getting only random integer values between 0 to 15. Let's make this little dynamic. Rather giving a hand-coded array length, we can use array.length property. So remove this 15 and type this. Our array name is color, so this dot color dot length. Save this and back to the browser and click this button again. Now also we can see this log getting numbers between 0 to 15. Now uncomment this all and remove this log. And remove this color code and add this dot color inside square brackets. Add the random number variable. With this line we are pulling the data from color array on this random number position. This number will be any number between 0 to 15. So if this random number is 1, this will pull this second hex code from the color array, not this first one, cause array index starts from 0. So keep this in your mind, arrays start with 0. Save this and back to the browser and save a new category. This time let's save something project Todos and click this add button. So now we got this success message. Go to the Firestore. Now we can see this newly created project to do category with these two values, ColorCode and to do count. Now let's show a notification pop-up when we save data to the Firestore. For that, we're gonna be using another npm pack called ngx Toastr. Open the terminal and type this npm i ngx-toastr and press enter. After this installed, open angular.json file and import the ngx Toastr CSS file. Under the CSS, add this import node_modules /ngx-toastr /toastr.css and restart the app. Open app module ts file and first import browser animation module. Import inside curly brackets browser animation module. From inside single quotes at Angular /platform-browser/animations. And import Toastr module. Import Toastr module. From inside single quotes ngx-toastr. Now go to this imports section and add these browser animations module. We are importing this browser animation module cause ngx Toastr required this animation module. So next add this Toastr module dot for root and brackets. Let's show a Toastr success message instead of this success log when we save data successfully. First import the Toastr service. Inside this category service file, import curly brackets Toastr service, then from inside single quotes ngx/toastr. After this, inject this Toastr service to the constructor private Toastr Toastr service. Now go to this callback function and remove this log and add this .toastr. So we are showing a success message. So here .success and parentheses. Inside the parentheses, pass the message that you want to show as a string. So single quotes inside new category saved successfully. Save this file and back to the browser and save a new category. This time save something school and click this add button. Beautiful. We can see this Toastr notification saying that new category saved successfully. Alright, now let's do some form validations. Go to the category component HTML file. Inside this category input, add this HTML attribute required. With this required attribute, we can show an error when we submit this form with empty data. Okay, let's make this validation using the Angular. First, let's give an identity for this input. #category. Assign inside single or double quotes ng model. This category can be any name. So next, if this has an error, I want to make this input field's border color to red. To do that, let's write a small CSS. Write this CSS as Global Style, because we're gonna use this style on to-do components as well. Open style.css file. Inside this, .border -danger, border 1 pixel, solid, and color will be red. Save this and go to the category component HTML file and add this class border danger inside this input. Save this and back to the browser. We are having a small problem here. We can see this top and bottom, this red border, but in left side and right side we cannot see the border. To fix this, get back to the styles.css file and add this import after this border. Save this and back to the browser. We can see this border turned into red color. So I want to show this border red when we have an error, not always like this. So we can add CSS style class with conditions using the Angular ngClass attribute directive. So inside this input tag, square brackets, and add ngClass. This C must be capital, equal sign, then double quotes. Inside these quotes, curly brackets. The first property will be the CSS style class name. Single quotes. Inside the single quotes. So in our case, border -danger colon, then pass the condition. First, we have to check this form is submitted or not. So our form identity is this F. So f.submitted and add this AND operator. Now check this input field as an error. For that, input field identity is category. So category.invalid. After this, remove this class border danger. Save this and back to the browser. Now click this button without typing anything inside this input field. Beautiful. Now we can see this red border when we passing an empty value. If you noticed here, we got also the data saved success Toastr message, which means we saved empty data inside the Firestore. We can confirm this by going to the Firestore and check is there any data saved with empty category value. Here it is. If you guys may think we did the validation and we got the red border on our input, but still this saved an empty data. How this happened? Actually we are not done with the validation. We did only the changing this border color. In order to stop data inserting to the database, we have to stop submit this form. When we click this button, this call this onSubmit function. If there is value, no problem. But if there is no value or empty value, we have to stop this form submission. In Angular, we can add a condition inside this ngSubmit. We're gonna check is this form valid or not. If this form is valid, this onSubmit function will call. Otherwise it won't. Inside this, before the onSubmit, add this f.form.valid. Then AND operator, double AND signs. Then this onSubmit function. Save this and back to the browser. Click this add button. As previous, we are seeing this red border, but we didn't show any Toastr notification because this form is not submitted, which means this onSubmit function not worked. That's why no data saved inside the Firestore. If you guys may be wondering how do I add these valid, submitted and this invalid properties. Actually these properties are coming with the ngForm. Go to the category component TS file and comment this all inside this onSubmit function and log this ngForm f parameter. Save this and back to the browser. Type something and click this add button. Inside the browser console, we can see this list of properties. Inside this form, we can see this valid property. And it is true now because we are passing a data, so this form is now valid. And here is submitted property, and in here we can see invalid property. This is how I added these properties. Hope you guys got the idea, right? Again, back to the category component TS file and uncomment this all and remove this log. Now I want to show the error message under this input. Open the category component HTML file and add this after this submit button. Div with class text-danger and ml-3. Inside this div, add this error message. Category is required. Save this and back to the browser. We can see this error message now. So let's add a condition to show this error message when we passing an empty data. Now we are going to use the ngIf directive star ngIf. This I must be capital. The equal sign. Inside codes, add these conditions. f.submitted and operator category.invalid and again and operator category.errors.required. So here we passed these three validations. You guys already know about these two, submitted and invalid. So this also coming from this ngForm. In here we are checking this error required. If this input field is empty, this required will be true. If not, this will return false. Save this and back to the browser. Click this add button without type anything inside this input field. Beautiful. We can see this error message. If you typed something inside this input, we cannot see the error. Delete this typed data Once this input field got empty, this will show again the error message. So we are done with the form validation part. Next, let's load saved category list from the Firestore and show it in the front end. Open category service file and like this save category, create a function to load categories. Load categories, this C capital, then parenthesis and the function scope. For loading data from the Firestore, we don't need to pass any parameters. Inside this function, this .afs, if you can remember, this afs is this injected Angular Firestore. .collection brackets, inside brackets, pass the collection name. So single quotes, inside this quotes, collection name, categories. After this, snapshot changes, this C must be capital and brackets. After this, pipe and again brackets. Inside this brackets, map this. So type this, map, again brackets, inside this brackets, actions, then arrow function, curly brackets, inside this arrow function, return actions.map, brackets, inside this A, again another arrow function, inside this arrow function, create a variable const data, assign a dot payload dot doc dot data and parenthesis, then semicolon. Next, another variable const id, assign a dot payload dot doc dot id, then return this id and data. So we want to return this from this main function also. So add return to this main query. This return coming to this function and this return coming to this function and this return coming to this function. If you noticed here, we are getting an error here. To solve this, add this import. Import curly brackets, inside curly brackets, map from, inside single quotes, rxjs/operators. Alright, next let's call this load categories function from category component ts file. We want to show saved categories data when this component onloads. If you used jQuery, you can remember that onload function. In Angular, we can do the same with this ngOnInit function. If you want to take an action when the time of component loads to the browser, we can use this ngOnInit function. Let's call the load category service function inside this ngOnInit function. This dot category service. Then we can see this auto import. Now we can see these two functions. Choose this load categories function. This load categories function returns an observable. So subscribe to this function dot subscribe brackets. Inside this brackets, well, this can be any variable, arrow function and the scope. Inside this, just log this val. Save this and back to the browser. Inside browser console, we can see this list of our to-do categories. If we look further, we can see each object as ID, value and the data object. Inside this data object, we can see this category, color code and to-do count. Alright, now we have this data. So next, let's load this data inside this category component HTML view. We cannot access this val variable outside of this function scope because this variable isn't a global variable. So create a global variable inside this class scope. Create a variable categories and give the type array. If you notice, this output is an array. Here we can see the length of this array. Then this array type is object because we got here a list of object inside this array. Then assign this val to this categories global variable. This dot categories assign val. Save this and back to the categories component HTML file. Now we have to loop these categories. To do that, in Angular, we have a directive ngFor. In the previous section, we designed this category card. So now loop this category card. So I want to loop this category card, but this category card is inside this column. So I want to loop this with this column. So add the ngFor directive inside this column div star ngFor equal sign. Inside quotes, type the loop let category of categories. So this categories is this global variable and this variable can be any name. Change this category name, remove this and open and close two curly brackets. In Angular, if we want to show a dynamic data on the front end, we can use this double curly brackets. Inside these curly brackets, category.data.category. Don't get confused. This category is this loop variable and this data is coming from this array object. Inside that data, we can see this category. This is the value we are pulling with this. And make this to-do count also dynamic. Open and close two curly brackets. Inside this category.data.todo count. Save this and back to the browser. Beautiful. Now we can see this list of to-do category cards. Some of these cards are not showing the category and also this to-do count. Why is that? Because at the beginning we saved a data without to-do count and color code. And even this category key also wrong. After that, we saved an empty category data when we doing the form validation. That's why we are getting these cards with missing data. So remove this invalid data from Firestore. And back to the browser. Now looks perfect. So now let's add side borders for these category cards by using the ColorCode value. In Angular, we can bind dynamic style to HTML tag using the style directive. So we are adding the left border color to this category card. Go to the category component HTML file and add this inside the card div. Square brackets. Inside this style.border dash left dash color. This is the style directive and this is the CSS property. Then equal sign, quotes. Inside quotes, add the color code. Category.data.color code. This value coming from the Firestore. Not only that, let's add the color code to this category H3. This time I am changing the text color. So again, inside this H3 tag, square brackets, style.color, equal sign, inside quotes, category.data.color code. Save this and back to the browser. Beautiful. Looks perfect. We can see this dynamic left border and the category text colors. Let's add a new category, reminders, and click this add button. Data saved successfully. We can see this Toastr and also we can see this newly created category reminder card. And also we can see this random color border on this card. Perfect, everything working according to our plan. Alright, next let's edit the categories. First, let's create a update category function inside category service. The function name is update category. Then parentheses. After this, function scope. Inside this function, let's add the update query. This.afs. This time, not collection. We are updating a document. So, doc, then brackets. Inside brackets, add the document path as a string. Document path format something like this. Collection name and slash, then ID of the document that you want to edit. So now the collection is categories. How do we know this? Because we are editing to do categories. So collection name is categories. Pass this as a string. Add single quotes. Inside this single quotes, categories slash, then we have to pass the document ID. This document ID will be dynamic. So we are getting the document ID as a parameter for this function. Inside the parentheses, add a variable for the parameter ID. The type will be string. So the document ID is this ID parameter. So concat the string. After this quotes, plus sign and ID. So we are getting the document with this. After this, dot update brackets. Inside these brackets, we have to pass the editing field name and the editing value. So add curly brackets. Inside this, the field name is category and colon. Now we have to pass the edited category value for this. So we are getting this edited value from the category component. So add another parameter for this. After this id parameter, comma, updated data. Now pass this updated data to this value. Now the callback function dot then brackets. Inside this callback function, add a parenthesis, then arrow and the function scope. Inside this, for now, let's add a success log. Later we can add the Toastr message. Next, let's call this update category function from category component. Before that, let me quickly explain the editing process. If you can remember, we added this pencil icon in the previous section. Now what I want to do is, when we click this pencil icon, this category must load to this input field. And I want to change this button add text to edit. After editing this category, and we have to click this submit button. This will submit the form. On this submit form, I want to call this update category service function. Let's do this step by step. First, let's load the category to this input field when we clicked one of this edit pencil icon. To do that, I am gonna call a function when clicking this icon. This time we want to take an action on mouse click, right? So in Angular, we can bind click event for this. So inside this I tag, this is the edit icon tag. So brackets inside this click, equal sign and quotes. Inside this quotes, call the function. So function name is onEdit, then parenthesis. Still we don't have this onEdit function, so create this onEdit function. Open the category component TS file. After this onSubmit function, create this onEdit function. onEdit parenthesis and function scope. Now I want to bind the category to the input field. To do that, I am gonna use two-way data binding method in Angular. Open category component HTML file. So first, I am gonna pass the category to onEdit function. Inside this parenthesis, the category is this. So this is coming from the Firestore. So copy this and paste it inside the parenthesis. Now go to the category component TS file and add the parameter to this onEdit function. Parameter variable name is category. Type will be string. Let's check this is working or not. Log this category parameter. Save this all files and back to the browser. Open the console and click this edit pencil icon. We can see this category name log inside the console. Click this category. Cool, this time this logged this category. Beautiful. Now let's bind this category to the input field. Create a global variable category name and this n will be capital. Type will be string and make this variable empty. Okay, now assign this category parameter to this category name global variable. This dot category name assign parameter variable category. After this, go to the category component HTML file. Inside this, in previous we added this ng model to bind this form data to this form. Now let's bind this input field to this category name. We are doing two-way data binding. So wrap this ng model inside square brackets and again brackets and put this ng model inside this equal sign and inside single quotes variable category name. Save this and back to the browser. Now click one of this edit pencil icon. Beautiful. Now we can see this category inside the input field. Some of you may be wondering how this happens. With this onEdit function, we are passing the category. Inside onEdit function, we are getting that category parameter and assigning it to this category name global variable. Then we have bound this category name variable to this input field. So this variable value is shown inside the input field. For example, if I click this gym categories edit button, from this icon we are passing this gym to this function onEdit. This parameter variable is now gym. Now we are assigning this gym category value to this category name. So this is also now gym. And we bound this category name to this input. So this category name value is gym. So this gym category value is showing inside this input field. This is how we got this category inside the input field. Hope you guys got the idea. We don't need two ng models here, so remove this. So next I want to make this button add to edit. To do that, I'm gonna make this submit buttons add dynamic. Remove this and add two curly brackets and add a variable name data status. This S is capital. We don't have any variable called data status. So create a new variable inside the category component TS file. This is gonna be a global variable. So inside the class scope, create the variable. The variable name is data status and type will be the string. Save this and back to the browser. Now we cannot see anything inside the button because we removed add text and added this variable. But still this variable doesn't have any assigned value. So assign a default value for this variable. This value will be add. Now again save this and back to the browser. Now we can see this add inside this button. Now I want to make this add to edit when we click this edit icon. So we already have the click event function. Go to the onEdit function inside the category component TS file. And inside this onEdit function, change this data status variable add value to edit. This dot data status assign edit. Save this and back to the browser. Click one of this edit pencil icon. Now we can see this add change to edit. And also we can see this category inside this input field. Alright, we load category to this input field and also we change this add to edit when clicking this edit pencil icon. So next what do we have to do is call the update category service function from category component TS file. The update process will be something like this. We already loaded the editing category to this input field. So now we can edit the category inside this input field. After editing this, we're gonna click this edit submit button. So when we click this button, this also does the same form submission like add category. This will call the same onSubmit function. Click edit one of this category and change this. I'm gonna add edit after the category and click this edit button. Okay, we got this save data success message and we can see here new category saved instead of updating the category. Why this happened? Because we are calling the same form submit function in edit action and save action. So what I am gonna do is inside the onSubmit function, I am gonna capture these two actions, add and edit. So if this button is add, we are saving a new category. If this button is edit, we are gonna do the editing category. So this button status changed with this data status variable. So inside this onSubmit, create an if statement, if brackets. The condition is this dot data status equals add. Don't forget to put this inside the quotes. And the scope, after this else if brackets, this time we are checking this dot data status equals edit and the scope. With this add if, we are saving a new category. So put this save code inside this add if. For now, let's log edit inside this edit if. Save this and back to the browser. Edit one of these category and click this edit button. Right now we are getting this edit log inside the console and we didn't get any Toastr message or new category saved. So we are almost done. Now remove this log and let's call the update category function from here. So this dot category service dot. Now we can see this autocomplete. Select the update category function. To call this function, we have to pass these two parameters. First one is the document ID. So we need the document ID. So go to the category component HTML file, pass the document parameter as this document ID to this onEdit function. After this, comma, category.id. So this is coming from the Firestore. If you can remember, we got this ID inside this categories array. Now we have to capture this ID parameter in onEdit function. Go to the categories component TS file and add this parameter ID colon type is string. So now we want to access this ID from this onSubmit function. This is not a global variable, so we cannot access this ID parameter from another function. So to solve this problem, let's make a global variable and assign this ID parameter to that global variable. Inside the class scope, the variable name is catID and type is string. Now go to the onEdit function and assign this ID parameter to that catID global variable. This .catID assign ID. Now go to the onSubmit function and pass this cat ID as the first parameter. For the second parameter, we have to pass the edited category. So f.value.category name. So this is coming from the ng form. Alright, save this all and back to the browser. Click the edit icon on this category card. Edit this. So I'm gonna add edit end of this and click this edit button. Beautiful. Now we can see this log, which means category data updated successfully. And also we can see here updated category. Let's add the Toastr success message instead of this log. Open category service TS file and inside this update category, remove this log and copy this Toastr message from the save category function and paste it inside this update category and change this save to update. Save this and back to the browser. Again update the same edited category and this time I will remove this edit and click this edit button. Perfect. Now we can see this Toastr success message. If you noticed, after we editing the category, it still remains inside this text field. So let's make it empty after editing the category. And also I want to set this button back to add. Inside onSubmit function, after this update category function call, add these f.resetForm and brackets. This f is this ngFor. So this will reset the form. And also change this .data status to add. And also add this form reset to this save category also. Save this and back to the browser. Edit a category. Click this edit button. Perfect. Now text field is empty and this edit change back to the add. Alright, we are now successfully completed the update category. Next, let's do the delete category. Delete category is really easy comparing to update and save. As usual, first let's create the delete category function inside the category service TS file. Function name delete category. This C is capital. Parentheses and the function scope. Inside this function, let's add the delete query. This .afs dot. This time also we are deleting a document. So doc brackets. Inside this brackets, we have to pass the document path. Codes. Inside these codes, collection name. We are deleting categories, so collection name is category slash, then we have to pass the collection ID. So we are getting this ID as a parameter, so add a parameter to this function. This will be ID and type will be string. Now concat this ID here, plus sign and ID. End of this brackets dot delete brackets. Now the callback function dot then brackets. Inside this brackets arrow function, open and close a bracket, then arrow and the scope. Inside this callback, let's show the delete success message. Copy and paste this Toastr message. This time let's change the message type to danger and add this message inside these brackets. Remove this all and add category deleted successfully. Next, go to the category component HTML file. Inside this delete icon tag, add the click event binding. Brackets, inside brackets, click, assign. Let's call a function codes inside on delete and brackets. Now let's create this onDelete function in category component TS file. After this onEdit function, create the onDelete function. Let's call the delete category function from this function. This.category service dot. Now select the delete category function. This required the document ID parameter. So let's pass the document ID to this onDelete function. Back to the category component HTML file and pass the ID inside this parenthesis. Category.id. Now again go to the category component TS file and create a variable to catch the document ID inside this onEdit parenthesis. ID and type will be string. Now pass this ID to this delete category. Save this all and back to the browser. Now click one of this category delete icon. We can see this Toastr red color message saying that category deleted successfully and also that category card removed from our category list. So we cannot see that category card any longer. Delete another one. Beautiful. So we have successfully completed all the save, delete, update and load categories functionalities. Next, let's move on to the Todos component. So this time this is going to be very easy. This to do also the same as the category. We have to save, update, delete and load Todos from the Firestore. And also we do marking Todos completed or uncompleted in this Todos component. Alright, let's create a service file for this to-do component. So inside the internal terminal, run this command. We already did this when we generating the category service file. This also the same. ngIf. This service file will be generated inside the service folder. So service slash and this service name to do. Press enter. After this service file generated, let's create the save to do function. Before that, we have to inject the Angular Firestore to this constructor. This time I am not going to hand code these imports. I am going to copy and paste from category service. Go to the category service file and copy these all imports and paste it inside the to-do service file. We are going to use all these same as category service. Again go to the category service and copy these injected AFS and Toastr. Paste it inside the to-do service constructor. So next let's create the save to do function. Save to do parenthesis and the scope. Inside this let's do the add query. This .afs.collection and brackets. Inside this we have to pass the collection name. This time this is different than the previous category collection. Previous categories collection was in the main row. So here we can see this at first. But the to-do collection is inside this categories collection, and also we can see this to-do collection inside this document too. So we have to build this query. So the first collection is categories. Inside this collection we have the document. So doc and brackets, and inside these brackets pass the document ID. This document ID will be dynamic, so we are getting this ID as a parameter. Inside the function parenthesis ID. The ID variable and the type will be string, and pass this ID parameter inside this doc brackets. After the document, only we have this to-dos collection. We have this to-dos collection inside this document. So after this, dot collection. This time collection name is to-dos. Don't get confused. This categories collection is this. And this document can be one of this document. Inside document we are saving a ngIf to do inside the to-dos collection. Hope you guys got the idea, right? After this, everything same as previous. So copy this code from this .add and paste it after this to-dos collection. So we need this data parameter. So create a parameter called data inside this function scope. Change this Toastr notification text, add to do instead of this category. So Toastr message is new to do saved successfully. Save this. Now let's call this function from to do component ts file. Before that, I want to open the to do component when we click one of these category cards. We can do this by adding a routerLink to this card content div. routerLink equal sign. Inside quotes, give the to do router. If you can remember, we created this router for to do component. So the router will be /todo. Save this and go to the browser. Now click one of these card. Awesome. We got the to do router and the to do component view. So next, let's make this to do component form to Angular template driven form. So this also like the previous category component form. So copy form identity and this submit event binding. Paste it inside the to do component HTML files form. Next, copy this ng model required input identity and this ngClass directive from category input and paste it inside this to do input. Now change this. This identity will be to do, and also this category dot invalid will be to do dot invalid. Now copy this error message from category component HTML file and paste it inside to do component HTML file after this submit button. Change this category to do. Save this and open to-do component TS file. First, let's import the to-do service file to this component file. Import curly brackets to-do service from single quotes double dot slash service slash to-do dot service. Now inject this to-do service to this constructor. Private to-do service colon to-do service. And also I forget to mention, remove this two-way data binding ng model and put just ng model here. We'll do the two-way data binding in later section. Alright, now create the onSubmit function. OnSubmit parenthesis. Inside parenthesis we are getting ngForm parameter. So f type will be ngForm and select this auto suggestion. This will add the auto import to this ngForm. Function scope. Inside this function, let's create the to-do object. Let to-do equal sign and curly brackets. As our to-do document plan, in to-do document we have to-do. So to-do colon, this to-do coming with the form. So f dot value dot to-do text. This is the text field name. Next we have this is completed. So after this is completed colon, pass the default value false. Now let's call the save to do function. This dot to do service dot save to do and parenthesis. This save to do function required these two parameters, id parameter and the data parameter. We have this data parameter on ready, but we don't have the category document ID to pass for this ID parameter. This category document ID is in the category component. So we have to pass that ID to this to-do component. So we can do this by binding this ID to the router. To do that, we have to first change our router. Open the app-routing.module.ts file and modify this to-do router. Add a slash after this and we are binding a data to this router. So colon and any variable name. So we are passing a document ID. So I am naming this variable ID. Save this file and get back to the category component TS file. In here we are calling the to-do router. So now we have to pass the document ID with this router. To do that, first wrap this router link with square brackets and put this router also inside the square brackets and add double quotes for this square brackets. For the first value we are passing the router. As a second value we are going to pass the category document ID. Category.id. Save this and back to the browser. Click one of this category card. So this loads the to-do component as previous. But if you notice carefully, you can see the URL has changed. End of the to-do router, we can see this document ID. Go back and click another category card. So this time this loads the different ID. So we are passing the relevant ID for the clicked category with this URL. Alright, now we have the category document ID on the to-do components router. So now we have to get that ID inside the to-do component TS file to pass this to save to-do service function. So we can get the router bind data with activated router. So let's import the activated router. Import inside curly brackets activated route from inside single quotes at Angular/router. Now inject activated router to this constructor. Private activated route colon activated route. Follow this capital simple letters carefully. Next, let's capture the router bound ID on this to-do component loads and assign that to a global variable. So create the global variable cat ID and type will be string. Go to the ngOnInit function. If you can remember, I told about this function on the previous section. This function loads immediately on load this component to the browser. So inside this ngOnInit function, this .catID assign this .activated route .snapshot .param_map.get and brackets. Inside these brackets, pass the router variable for this category ID. So we passed a variable name as ID inside the router module file. So add that variable inside these brackets, single quotes and ID. So after this, let's make sure this is working. So add the log for this cat ID. Save this and back to the browser. Open this browser console. Inside the console, we can see this printed ID value. We can see this URL value now printed inside the console. Go back to the main category component and click another card. This time also we can see this router bound ID value inside the browser console. Perfect. So now we know this is working. So remove this log, go to the onSubmit function and pass this global variable for category document ID, this .catID, and also pass this to do as the second parameter. After this, add the form reset. So f.form reset and brackets. Save this and back to the browser. Let's save a new to do something new to do task 1 and click this add button. We saw this Toastr success notification, which means we have saved a new category to Firestore successfully. Let's reconfirm this. Go to the Firestore panel and let's find the Firestore document belongs to this ID. Here it is. Open this. We can see the to-dos collection inside this document. Open the to-do collection. Inside this to-do collection, we can see this newly created to-do document. Perfect. We added the form validation also. Let's try to save an empty to-do. We can see this error when we trying to save new to-do. Alright, now this category document has one to-do, but still this to-do count value is 0. So let's add an increment to the to-do count when saving a new to-do. Go to the to-do service file and add this increment code inside this save to-do callback. Before this Toastr message, let's add the increment query. As usual, this .afs. We are updating a category document. So doc brackets. Inside this, add the path for this document. First, collection name, inside quotes, categories, and slash, and concat the document ID. We are getting the document ID as a parameter for this function. So plus sign and this parameter variable ID. After this, we are updating the document. So update and brackets. Inside these brackets, pass the field name that we want to update and the updated value. First add curly brackets. Inside this curly brackets, the field name is to-do count. As a value, pass this. This time this is a bit different. Firestore, select the auto suggestion cause we need to auto import this Firestore. If you don't get the auto suggestion, just simply type this import. Dot field value dot follows this capital simple letters carefully. Increment brackets. Inside brackets, add the increment value. So we want to increase this to-do count by 1. So add number 1 inside these brackets. Save this and back to the browser. This time save a new to-do under a different category. Select this category. Inside this to-do, create a new to-do task 1 and click this add button. We got this success Toastr message. Go back to the category page. Beautiful. Now we can see this incremented value. Previously it was 0, now it is 1. Perfect. Alright, we are done with the new to-do, save and the to-do count increment. So now let's load the saved to-dos inside this to-do div. This is also same like load categories. There is no much difference. So copy this load categories function from category service file and paste it inside the to-do service file. Change this load categories to load to-dos and change this query. This time we are not loading data from categories collection but from the to-dos collection. We already know this to-dos collection located inside the categories document. So we have to pass the correct path. We did the same thing for this add query also. So add this after the collection brackets. Doc and brackets. Inside these brackets, we have to pass the document ID. So this will come from the to-dos component. So get this as a parameter. Add this parameter inside this load to-dos parenthesis ID and type will be string. Pass this ID inside these brackets. Next, again dot collection, This time collection name is Todos. And no need to change these all. Save this and go to the to-do component ts file. Now let's call the load todos function from this ngOnInit function. So this dot todo service dot select the load todos function. This function required the category document ID. So pass this cat ID. This dot cat ID. So this function returns an observable. So subscribe to this observable dot subscribe brackets. Inside brackets a variable name. This can be any variable. So I am declaring this variable as val. VAL. After this arrow function and the scope. In order to access this observable data, we have to assign this val to a global variable. So create a global variable named Todos and type will be array and array type will be object. So now assign this val to this Todos global variable. This dot Todos assign val. Let's check this is working or not. Log this Todos variable after this. Save this and back to the browser. Inside the browser console, we can see this list of Todos array. Alright, now go to the Todos component HTML file and load the Todos array. We already designed this to-do card. Let's show the Todos inside this card. Inside this card div, add the ngFor directive. Star ngFor equal sign. Inside single quotes, let todo. This variable can be any variable name and of Todos. This is the global Todos variable. Remove this and type text and open and close two curly brackets. Inside this curly brackets, todo.data.todo. This todo is this todo variable and this data is coming from the Firestore. Here you can see data. Inside that data, we have saved our todo values with this todo key. This todo is this. Alright, save this and back to the browser. Beautiful. Now we can see the list of Todos in here. Now let's edit this Todos. This also same as edit category. When clicking this edit icon, this will load the to-do inside this text field and this add button will change to edit. Alright, first let's create the update to-do function inside the Todos service file. After this, create the update to-do function. Inside this function, let's create the update query. As usual, this .afs.collection brackets, inside brackets, quotes and collection name. You already know this, we are editing a to-do, but the to-do collection is inside of a category collection and also inside of a category document. So this first collection is categories. Next .doc and brackets. Inside these brackets, we have to pass the category document ID. So this document ID will be dynamic. So get this as a parameter. Inside the parentheses, create a variable cat ID and type is string. Pass this cat ID parameter inside these brackets and again dot collection. This time this is Todos collection. Add pair of brackets and pass the collection name Todos as a string. Next again doc. We are updating a to-do document inside the Todos collection. So now we have to pass the to-do collection ID. This is also dynamic. So create a parameter for this to-do ID. Parameter variable name is to-do ID and this I must be capital. And type is string. Pass this to-do ID parameter value inside these brackets. So we are updating a document. So this will be .update and brackets. Inside these brackets pass the editing field name and the edited value as an object. Inside these brackets, curly brackets, the editing field name is to-do, colon, and this edited value will be dynamic. Add another parameter for this edited value. So variable name is updated data, type is string. And pass this as this edited to-do value. Next then brackets. Inside brackets create the callback function. Inside this callback function add the Toastr success message. This Toastr.success and brackets. Inside these brackets add this message. To do updated successfully. Save this file. Now let's call the update to do function from the to do component ts file. Before that, let's load the to do to the input field and change the add button to edit. This is also the same as the previous category. First, let's load the to do inside the input field. For this we used two-way data binding. Inside this edit icon tag, call the onEdit function when this edit pencil icon clicked. So this is same as previous category edit. So copy click event inside this edit icon tag from category component HTML file and paste it inside this to do component HTML files edit icon tag. So we are passing two parameters for this. First one is the to do. So remove this category and add to do. This to do is this loop variable and this is the Firestore to do document field name for the to do. Now create the onEdit function inside this to do component ts file. This is also the same as category onEdit function. So copy this onEdit function from category component file and paste it inside the to do component ts file. We are getting a to do instead of a category from to do component HTML file. So change this category parameter to do. Keep this ID. Now change this category name to do value. We are getting this error cause still we don't have this to do value global variable. So create that inside the class scope to do value and type is string. Next, this data status variable, we need this also. If you can remember in a category component, we made add button to edit using this data status global variable. We are doing the same add to edit here also. So we need this data status variable. Create the data status variable and type is string. And assign the default value add. Next, change this cat ID to todo ID and create that global variable also. Todo ID type string. In this onEdit function, we are assigning the todo to this todo value global variable. Now bind this variable to the todo input field. Go to the todo component HTML file, put this ng model inside the square brackets and brackets. Equal sign. Inside quotes, add the todo value global variable. Next, add the data status variable to this submit button. Remove this add, open and close two curly brackets. Inside brackets, pass the data status variable. Save this all and back to the browser. Click this todo edit icon. Perfect. This loads the todo inside the text field, and also we can see this button add change to edit. Alright, let's call the update todo service function from this onSubmit function. So first we have to capture the action. This is add todo or editing todo. So put an if else condition. If at the condition this dot data status equals add. If this is true, we do the saving new todo. So put these codes inside this if. Next, else if the condition will be this dot data status equals edit. If this true, we'll do the editing todo. So call the update todo service function from here. This dot todo service dot update todo. This requires three parameters. First one is category document ID. We already have that. We got that from the router. This dot cat ID. For the second parameter, have to pass the todo document ID. This is coming from this onEdit function. So pass this dot todo ID. The next parameter is edited todo value. So this is coming from the ngForm. So f dot value dot todo text. After this, reset the form and change edit button to add. Save this and back to the browser. Edit this, add edit end of it, and click this edit button. Perfect. We got this update success message and we can see this edited todo. And also this form reset and this edit change to add. So next move on to the delete todo section. As usual, create the delete todo function inside the todo service file. Go to the todo service file and create the delete todo function. Inside this function, let's do the delete query. Copy this update query and paste it inside this all same. Remove this update to delete and remove this object inside the brackets. We have to get these parameters, cat ID and todo ID. We are deleting a todo document. That todo document is inside the categories collection and category document as well as the to-dos collection. Change this Toastr message type to error and change this message to to-do deleted successfully. Now let's call this delete function from the to-do component TS file. Go to the to-do component TS file and call onDelete function from this delete icon. This is also same like category delete. So go to the category component HTML file and copy this click on delete function and paste it inside to-do component TS file. Inside this delete icon tag, change this category to to-do. Now go to the category component TS file and copy this onDelete function and paste it inside the to-do component TS file. Keep this parameter. We are calling to to-do service file. So change this category service to to-do service and the function name is delete to-do. And this function required two parameters. First one is category document ID. So pass this .cat ID and next required the to-do document ID. For that pass this parameter ID. Save this and back to the browser. Delete this to-do. Perfect. This to-do deleted successfully from the Firestore. Now we have to decrement the to-do count when we deleting a to-do from category document. So if you can remember, we did to-do count increment when we saving a new to-do. This time we're gonna do the decrement when deleting the save to-do. This is also the same as increment. So copy this increment code from the save to-do function and paste it inside this delete to-do's queries callback function. Change this ID to cat ID. Change this number 1 to -1. If you want to increment, add plus numbers. If you want to decrement, add minus numbers inside these brackets. Save this and back to the browser. Delete this to-do. Now this category doesn't have any to-dos. Go back to the category list. Here we can see this change to 0. Let's check this again with another category. Save to new to-dos. Back to the category list. Here we can see the to-do count updates 0 to number 2. Now again go to the to-do list and delete one from these to-dos. Again go back to the category list. Perfect. Now this updates to 1, which means this category has 1 to-do. We have completed save, update, delete and load functions for to-do component. Next let's do the to-do completed and uncompleted task. We can see this green circle with this right icon and also we can see this red circle with this cross icon. I'm gonna use this green icon to make uncompleted to-do to complete and gonna use this red icon to make completed to-do to uncompleted. When we're saving a new to-do, by default this to-do is uncompleted because we are saving is completed value as false when we saving a new to-do. If this is completed value is false, this means that to-do isn't completed yet. If this is completed value is true, which means that to-do is completed. So now let's do the marking to-dos as completed when clicking this green icon. So what do we going to do is, When clicking this icon, we're gonna update the is completed field to true. We already know if is completed value is true, that to do is completed. Not only that, I want to show a horizontal line crossing the to do text on the completed to dos. So we can differentiate completed to do and uncompleted to dos. So first, let's design this horizontal line. Go to the to do component HTML file and add an HR tag after this to do text. Now add some CSS to this HR tag. Open the to do component CSS file and add these CSS styles. HR, open and close curly brackets. Inside this, display block margin dash top -8 pixels, margin dash left 30 pixels, margin dash right auto, border dash style inset, border dash width 1 pixel, background dash color black. Save this and back to the browser. So now we can see this HR line crossing this to do text. Create another new to do task 2 and click this add button. We got this new to do. If you noticed, we are getting this HR line on all to dos. But I want to show this HR line only on the completed to do. So let's add a condition to this HR line by using the Angular ngIf directive. Go to the to do component HTML file and add this inside the HR tag. Star ngIf equal sign inside single quotes to do dot data dot is completed. With this line, we are checking the is completed value is true or false. If this is true, this HR tag will appear on the view. If this is false, this HR tag will not be shown on the view. Save this and back to the browser. Now we don't see that HR line on to-dos, because these to-dos are not completed yet. So now let's add the update query to make this to-do completed. As usual, go to the to-do service file and create a new function called markComplete. Inside this function, what we are doing here is we're gonna update the relevant to-do documents is completed field value to true. So this is going to be an update query. So copy this query from update to do function and paste it inside this markComplete function. This query path will same, don't need to change anything. This required the category document ID and the to do document ID. So creates these parameters inside the parentheses. Cat ID type will be string and next to do ID and type will be a string. Now change this updating field and the value. This time we are updating the is completed field and value is true. Change this Toastr success message type to info and also change this message to do marked completed. Save this. Now let's call this function when clicking the completed icon. So go to the to-do component HTML file and inside this fa-check-circle icon tag, add the click event. Inside brackets, click equal sign. Inside quotes, let's call to a function called complete to do and pass the to do document ID as a parameter, todo.id. Now go to the to do component ts file and create this complete to do function. This function getting a parameter to do ID. Type is a string. From this function, call the mark complete service function. This dot to do service dot mark complete and the parenthesis. This function requires two parameters, so pass them. This dot cat id and to do id. Save this and back to the browser. Click this complete icon. Perfect. We can see this Toastr message saying that to do marked as completed. And also we can see this horizontal line on this completed to do. Beautiful. Now let's do the marking completed to do as uncompleted. It's also the same as previous mark complete function. So copy this function and paste it under this function. Change the function name to mark uncomplete. Keep the parameters. The query is the same. This time we are making the to do as uncompleted. So change this is completed value to false. Also change the Toastr message type to warning and change the message to do marked uncompleted. Save this and go to the to do component HTML file. This time add the click event for this fa-circle icon tag. Copy this click event and paste it. Change the function name to uncomplete to do. Keep this parameter, we need that as previous. Now go to the to do component ts file and create this uncomplete to do function. This is getting the to do id parameter. The type is string. Call the mark uncomplete service function from here. This dot to do service dot mark uncomplete. Pass the category doc id and to do id as parameter. Save this all and back to the browser. Click this red uncomplete icon. Beautiful. This time this mark this completed to do to uncompleted to do. And we can see the horizontal line disappeared when it's marked to incomplete. We are almost done with the second section of this tutorial. So now I want to hide this to do complete icon when to do marked as completed. And I want to hide this incomplete icon when the to do marked as uncompleted. And also I want to do the same for these left side icons too. When the to do is incomplete, I want to show this red circle icon and hide this green right icon. And also when the to do is completed, I want to hide this red icon and show this green icon. We can do this by using the ngIf directive. Go to the to do component HTML file. Inside this icon tag, let's add the ngIf star ngIf equal sign and the condition. This icon is that red circle icon. So I want to show this when the to do is uncompleted, which means if the isCompleted field is false, I want to show this icon. So the condition will be something like this: todo.data.isCompleted. With this I am getting the isCompleted field value of the to-do from Firestore. And also with this condition, this will show this tag when this value is true. But for this red circle icon, I want to show this when this is false. To do that, add this exclamation mark front of this. Now do the same for other 3 icons. Copy this ngIf and paste it inside these 3 icon tags. This is this green icon, so I want to show this when this value is true. So remove this exclamation mark. So now we have this complete to-do icon. I want to show this when a to-do is not completed, so this is gonna be false. Keep this with this exclamation mark. This is the incomplete icon. I want to show this when a to-do is completed, so this is gonna be true, so remove this exclamation mark. Save this and back to the browser. In here, now we can see only this one icon. These to-dos are still not completed. That's why we are seeing this red circle icon and this green to-do complete icon. Make this to-do complete. Perfect. Now we can see this icon change to green right icon, and this complete icon change to this red incomplete icon. Congratulations guys, we have successfully completed building this to-do app. Next, let's move on to our last section. Let's deploy this to-do app to Firebase Host and make this app go live. Before that, if you guys until now enjoyed this video or learned something, give a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. It's really appreciated guys. And also do not forget to hit the bell icon. Alright, let's build this to-do Angular app to production. First, let's put this Firebase config inside the environment prod.ts file. Otherwise, this will show an error when we building this app to production, saying that cannot find the Firebase config variable inside environment.prod.ts file. Copy this from environment.ts file and paste it inside environment.prod.ts file. Now type this command on the internal terminal: ng build --prod and hit enter. This will build our Angular app to production, and it may take several seconds to several minutes. I get back when it's done. Our Angular app built successfully in production mode and ready to go live. We can find these build files inside the dist folder. Now let's enable Firebase hosting. Go to the Firebase console and go to this hosting tab. Now we can see this setup guide. This is very simple. Just follow these steps. First thing first, we have to install this Firebase CLI on our PC or Mac. Copy this command and open the terminal or the command prompt. Paste copied command. If you are on a Mac, add sudo beginning of this command. Press enter. This will install Firebase CLI globally in our computer. Once it's done, let's do the second step. Before that, navigate to the project folder. and navigate inside the dist folder, because our production ready app files are inside this dist folder. And also rename this folder name to public. Run this command. Now first we have to log in to the Firebase account. Firebase login. This will open the Google account login inside your default browser. Log into your Google account. Keep this in your mind. In this action, you have to log into your same Google account when you use to create the Firebase app. After login to the Firebase account, let's run this second command, Firebase init. Yes, we are ready to proceed, so give yes to this. First, this will ask which feature that you want to use. We are trying to host our Todo app, so select this hosting. Navigate using the arrow keys. To select the feature, use the spacebar. Now hit enter. Now select this use an existing project option, because we already created the Firebase project. Press enter. Next, select our Firebase project to do. Next question, this is asking about the main directory. By default, it's use public folder as main directory. If you can remember, we renamed this main production build app folder name to public. So no need to type anything, just hit enter. This will by default use this public folder as main directory. Next, this will ask to rewrite our index file. We don't need to do that, so give this to no and hit enter. Next, this will ask to override index file. We don't have to do that also, so give this also no and hit enter. Perfect. This is the end of the Firebase init. Let's move on to the final step. We have successfully completed these two commands. Now click this next button. This command will deploy our Todo app to Firebase Host. Once it complete, we can check our app using this domain. Alright, let's run this command inside the terminal. Copy this command and paste it. Firebase deploy. Press enter. Beautiful. Now our app is deploying to the Firebase host. This will take a bit time, so stay until this complete. Perfect. Our Todo app is now live. We can see this success deploy message and we can see this URL to access our Todo app. Copy this URL and paste it inside the browser. Congratulations guys, we have successfully hosted our Todo app to the Firebase host. Now go to the Firebase console and complete this. Continue to console. In case if you don't like this version of Firebase URL, you can use this web.app URL. This also open our app. And also you can connect your own domain instead of these subdomains. If you guys want to know more about this, leave a comment below. This Firebase host is free, but there is some limitation. Go through the Firebase pricing page, then you can get an idea about these limitations. This is it guys. This is the end of this tutorial. Hope you guys learned something with this tutorial, and also I think I gave a full package tutorial from design to deploy. I always wanted to do something like this. You guys can improve this app by adding additional features, and also if you guys want, you can link this Todo app to your portfolio. If you guys enjoyed the tutorial and if you guys want more tutorials like this, please give a thumbs up. Leave a comment if you have any questions, and also please subscribe to the channel. I'm planning to release a new tutorial every week, so don't forget to hit the bell icon. Stay tuned. Thank you guys. We'll meet again with another video. Until then, learn smart, not hard.